Hello, everyone. My name is Francesco. I am an application security guy, cloud security guy, and today is Vulnerability Weekly. We analyze today and we focus today a little bit on Pwn2Own. This a challenge and a competition that happens around the world and is sponsored by the Zero Day Initiative. And is there to actually help security researchers get together and focus on finding bugs and exploiting. And today is the vulnerability of the week, 26th or 23rd of May. Actually, we're recording on the 22nd, but it's going to be on the 23rd of May when this is released. So today we're going to focus on Pwn2Own and the results that we've seen from there. A lot of information around Microsoft, Ubuntu, Firefox specifically, and 3 vulnerability on Windows, Microsoft Teams, and Tesla, because every year there is a Tesla hack there. From an application security perspective, we're going to see an injection of typo squatting library in Python, as well as cloud security vulnerability. We are doing week on week a review of the latest vulnerability or the vulnerability exploited to give an overview of all the vulnerabilities that happen. As always, if you have suggestion, if we miss some vulnerability that you want to be covered, we'll pick it up the week after. And leave a suggestion in the comments. And as always, be informed, be aware, and be safe. So without further ado, let's kick off on the vulnerability of the week. As I said, there is a focus on Pwn2Own this week because there are a lot of new vulnerability being discovered, disclosed, and fixed. So I've included the video as well on the Pwn2Own. There is one of the latest vulnerability, not really making a lot of news on Microsoft Teams for exploiting. The one that actually made more news was 2 bugs with prototype pollution and sequenced together that were actually quite dangerous because enabled attacker to do probably something a bit more heavy on the browser and injection on the browser. As a special point, Tesla, as always, there have been a couple of attempts and a couple of bugs on the interface system that chain together enable several things to be open, the boots, the car locking system. So it was awarded for exploiting 2 bugs sequenced together. For Microsoft Teams, there were 2 vulnerability, actually 3 vulnerability exploited. An elevation of privilege, and for that's a no elevation of privilege means that you are normal users, and by creating or by activating a number of bugs, then you can operate a script or something at a higher level than is your permission level. So he was able to effectively operate as a higher privilege level by exploiting and by bypassing the access control on Microsoft Windows 11. There's been another one on the same operating system. So Vital Cyber. I'm not going to try to pronounce all the name, and Bruno and Vince HP managed to do 3 different escalation of privilege or different attack on the control plane for Windows 11. From an application-specific vulnerability, there have been coverage on an interesting typo squatting attack on PyPI, that is the repository for Python libraries. There is more attention on the supply chain for repositories, and we've seen with Log4j, we've seen with Java-based vulnerability being a bit more focused. But in this particular case, the attacker wasn't super sophisticated. Was interesting because it replaced a name with another very similar name, not in capital letter, of PyKafka. That is a very widely used Apache Kafka. And for who doesn't know, Apache Kafka is a queuing system that manage and access messages. Fundamentally, the attacker created a library with exfiltration capability, and because Kafka managed messaging data, it was particularly interesting for the attacker. The library was discovered, the malicious library was discovered and deleted promptly, but there were 325 users that managed to access it. So double check that that library has been deployed or cleaned it up. Kudos to Sonatype for investigating and identifying, and as a recommendation, like everybody mentioned, before installing a library, check the code, verify that it's from a reputable source, double check the name, and check the description. If 9 times out of 10, the description is empty because the attacker wants to leverage the misattention of the user to actually not seeing and not identify. From an infrastructure network security perspective, we've seen an interesting attack on Microsoft on iOS. There have been too many attacks on Microsoft Windows, but on iOS specifically. And this was particularly malicious because it was attacking Bluetooth device, and specifically the segment of iPhone 13 that was accessing the call home service for iOS. And it was interesting because it was deployable even without accessing directly when the phone was actually turned off. So it was a particularly interesting one, and the Bluetooth kind of why the Bluetooth NFC chip is actually hardwired to a lot of other security components. So it was particularly interesting. So a workaround was recommended by Apple before remediating the vulnerability, and the vulnerability has been actually remediated in the latest iOS 15 release that was disabling Find My Phone, and this can be deployed also as a policy. We cover extensively QNAP vulnerability in the past issue of Vulnerability Weekly, and this week we just want to refresh the attention on this particular set of critical vulnerability, especially on QTS. And I've listed down the version of QTS that are affected. But this particular set of vulnerability, again, identified as the previous version of Pwn2Own from NCC Group. There have been an increased attack surface or increased attention in new malwares and new bot trying to exploit this vulnerability. In the previous issue, we've seen Raspberry. There was a vulnerability that affected Microsoft devices that attacked the QNAP device. As always, when there is a new hot vulnerability, especially affecting any registry of data like QNAP device, there is a lot of attention and a lot of occasional exploitation, but also systematic exploitation. So please go and update your QNAP device. From a cloud vulnerability we covered this week, another couple of interesting information. So the Microsoft Azure, again, they've been particularly hammered by the team at Orca and in general from Waze and Orca. There've been an extreme attention, thank for us, on this kind of platforms, and in this particular case, the team was exploiting the auto creation of accounts from Microsoft in Azure Automation Service. So we're going to cover these two aspects from Logic App and NetSpeed and Orca. So auto warp was a critical vulnerability discovered by the Orca team around December 2021. The 2021, the second end was particularly interesting for cloud vulnerability. There've been a lot of research. Almost half of them, if not all of them, were discovered between the summer of 2021 and disclosed around that time and January of this year, 2020, of last year, 2022. And this particular vulnerability is on automation functionality of Azure, and specifically, now the last thing that we're going to cover today, aside from the cloud vulnerability, is Conti. Conti ransomware is an attack group, and in the recent advisory, there have been some interesting chatter on the fact that the Conti ransomware group has been dismantled. And not because of that, though, the Conti ransomware will stop operate. So the unit of operation actually have broken up in different units, and they've been continuing attacking. It is a news that is particularly interesting because it comes at the time when the Conti ransomware has been particularly active attacking Costa Rica and exploiting a number of servers and dumping fundamentally data on the web. I've included the latest information about the attack, especially from President Chavez declaring national emergency with this with these ransomware attacks across the board and with exfiltration, and because they didn't want to pay, fundamentally data was dumped. It is to note that the group will remain active, the cells will remain active and being distributed around a number of other coexisting group and well-known ransomware group, but by no means the group will stop operate. They just dismantled the group as a system. And this has come to attention because they've been particularly active exploiting nation or targeting nation. So that might be the reason why they dismantled and they went a little bit more quieter or more distributed. Again, stay safe. Always watch the channel for the latest vulnerability. Always look at latest updates systematically. Prioritize what's more important first, and stay safe, please. This is Francesco. This is Vulnerability Weekly. I hope this course was informational. Again, all these information are available on the website at www.upsecphoenix.com/security vulnerability of the week. We have a whole list of new vulnerability coming every week. And all these videos are actually in this page. So I hope this information was useful. Stay safe and